My friends, the border between the United States and Mexico is turning into a war zone. And it's not me saying it, it's the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott.
The border's gonna look like a war zone.
It is a war zone.
The situation is serious. Here on the 3rd of March 2024, Axios reported ex-Border Patrol chief cartels are winning. A month later, the Texas Observer summarized the situation as an unwinnable war. But it's Politico that came up with the harshest words. The most important national security issue facing America with the least amount of attention. If only somebody could come and just solve the problem. One of the many problems is the increased militarization of various Mexican cartel factions. Just like you can see on screen, these guys are armed and equipped like spec ops. Now because of the migrant crisis, countless of these gunmen managed to go in and out of the US-Mexico border with impunity, just like these armed sicarios that crossed the Rio Grande River separating Texas and Mexico. Meanwhile, this 85-year-old rancher from Arizona reported to the Epoch Times, seeing young men in military-style clothing, and some of them had walkie-talkies. In February 2024, as part of Operation Lone Star, the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, announced the construction of a military base in Eagle Pass on the US-Mexico border that will host between 1,800 and 2,300 soldiers from the Texas National Guard. And now we even have M113 armored personnel carriers posted at the border. This comes months after a heavily armed force of Texas Rangers stormed Fronten Island, an important smuggling hub along the Rio Grande controlled by Mexican cartels. The decision of Texas to build a wall, add razor wire, and now with the construction of a forward operating base right at the border also led to internal tensions. During the tense standoff at Eagle Pass between the Texas National Guard under Governor Greg Abbott and Border Patrol agents of the federal government, many people talked about the start of a second civil war. As of now, Florida, Indiana, Louisiana, Missouri, and Arkansas sent some of their National Guard units to support the Texas initiative at the border. Oh, I forgot that already by 2023, Alabama, South Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, and Mississippi had all deployed some of their National Guard units to Texas. Boys were good for round 2. Now, if you ever dreamed of becoming a Texas Ranger, you have to make sure you will be able to pass their fitness test, right? This video is sponsored by Trainwell. Did you ever lack the motivation to stay consistent with your workouts? Or didn't know where to start your fitness journey? That's why I want to introduce you to Trainwell. I know training can be overwhelming, but Trainwell will make fitness a seamless part of your day-to-day life. The moment you download their app, you will get matched with a personal trainer. You will not be given a general workout plan. Your trainer will provide you with a flexible training routine customized for you specifically, whether you prefer to work out at home or at the gym. I personally like the fact that I could get access to a knowledgeable personal trainer and talk to him whenever I wanted to through a chat inside the app. We discussed the best ways I could cut body fat all the while maintaining muscle mass.
I try to get 6,000 steps a day, but it's very inconsistent depending on the workload.
We'll have some cardio in the workouts as well, just more of like a warm-up type of thing, get the body warm. So we'll be able to get some additional steps in there.
Right. And is there a big difference between, in your experience, between barbell and a Smith machine, for example?
We want to really focus on building up our squat heavy. Using a free barbell is probably going to be a little bit better if our primary goal is to build muscle tissue. I love the Smith machine.
From this moment on, all your workouts will be planned according to your goals. The Trainwell fitness program and app is great because it allows you to keep track of your progress and stay motivated. What I also liked is that when you click on your workout, you get to see all the exercises you have to complete that day, with the weight, the number of sets and reps that you have to accomplish. And if you're not sure how to perform some of these exercises, Trainwell added a 360 video to walk you through your set. If you want to bring your fitness journey to the next level, click my Trainwell link down below to get 14 days for free with your own personal trainer. The US-Mexico border spans over 3,000 kilometers, with much of the area characterized by semi-desert terrain. On the eastern part of the border, the state of Texas and Mexico are separated by the Rio Grande River, which forms the southern border of Texas for 2,000 kilometers and includes countless of islands. Recently, the Texas Rangers launched a massive campaign to seize these islands and clear them out to prevent cartels from coming back, on top of daily patrol boats navigating on the river. Before we talk about modern-day operations to secure the US-Mexico border, let's go back to where it all started. The Texas Rangers have been active since 1823, when Texas was still part of Mexico. Unsatisfied with the protection the Mexican government provided to American settlers, Stephen F. Austin financed his own force of 10 troops to protect the men and women living in his colony. The Texas Rangers were born. Over time, the unit grew. Together with the Texas militia, the Texas Rangers had two primary missions. Number 1, protect the frontier from the raids of indigenous plain tribes. Number 2, secure the southern border from Mexican incursions.
Scanning for Mexicans.
Yeah, same problematic 200 years ago. During the 1800s, since there were not enough US Army soldiers deployed in Texas, the federal government proved unable to stem the raids of the Comanche warriors. It was the Texas militia and the Rangers that plugged the gaps. We can mention the Great Raid of 1840 by the Comanches against Southeast Texas, and the Antelope Hills Expedition of 1858, that proved to be particularly bloody and vicious. In the end, the Texas Indian War ended in 1875 with the surrender of the Comanches. While all this was taking place on the southern border, Texas Rangers had to deal with the groups of bandits coming from Mexico. It's also important to note that whenever Mexico went through political turmoil, it would always spill over one way or another onto the United States. Some things never change. We can mention the 1842 Battle of Salado, where 140 militias and 80 Rangers defeated a Mexican expedition of 1,600 men near San Antonio. One of these militias was Captain Walker, future Texas Ranger and co-inventor of the Colt revolver. Did someone say Walker Texas Ranger? We can also talk about the follow-up Texan punitive expedition into Mexico led by Sam Houston, which completely failed. Actually, it was a disaster. Out of 350 troops, 64 were KIA or wounded and another 242 were captured. And this led to the infamous Black Bean episode. 4 years later, during the Mexican-American War, the Texas Rangers acted as guides and helped protect US Army supply lines by participating in counter-guerrilla warfare. Because of that, they were nicknamed Los Diablos Tejanos by the Mexicans. Texas Rangers also played a crucial role between 1859 and 1861 when they stopped and defeated multiple incursions by Mexican militias commanded by Juan Cortina. Or in 1875, when a force of 400 Mexican bandits raided Texan ranches, the Texas Rangers, led by Captain Lander H. McNally, played a crucial role by crossing into Mexican territory, recovering the stolen cattle, and demonstrating US resolve against cross-border raids. With the end of the Indian Wars and political stabilization in Mexico, Texas went through decades of relative peace. But tensions increased once again in 1910 with the start of the Mexican Revolution.
Oh shit, here we go again.
The turmoil surrounding the Mexican Revolution led to at least a dozen significant cross-border raids by Mexican bandits into the United States. To restore order, Governor James Ferguson sent hundreds of Texas Rangers to protect the border. Ultimately, this bandit war cost the lives of 427 American civilians. During those years, Texas Rangers were not angels either. In reprisal for the attacks on American civilians, thousands of Mexican Americans were lynched or executed without trial, just for being suspected of helping the bandits. As you know, these raids also triggered the US military intervention in northern Mexico, known as the 1916 Pancho Villa expedition. The last cross-border skirmish happened near El Paso in June 1919, where American and Mexican troops actually joined forces to fight guerrillas led by Pancho Villa. The border remained relatively calm for the next 60 years, until the rise of Mexican cartels. and the increasing number of illegal migrants that wanted to cross the border into the United States throughout the 1980s. By 1993, San Diego became a major entry point for illegal migrants coming from Mexico. The 531,000 people caught that year likely represented only a fraction of those who crossed unhindered. That's when US Border Patrol agents in El Paso, Texas, launched an experiment codenamed Operation Hold the Line. The mission focused on deterring illegal crossings through a visible and sustained presence of Border Patrol agents along the border. This was followed by Operation Gatekeeper in 1994. The strategy was to deter migrants from illegally crossing in the first place. That's how the US government built a 14-mile-long wall in the San Diego sector. Yeah, and they nicknamed it the Tortilla Wall. Another aspect that is important to understand is that the United States is a signatory of the 1951 Refugee Convention, the 1967 Protocol, and the Refugee Act of 1980, meaning they have to take care of any asylum seeker that enters the United States. They can't just be sent back. Essentially, the moment the migrants touch down, it becomes the problem of the United States. So the idea was then to physically block the migrants. Due to the continuing humanitarian crisis taking place, the Border Safety Initiative, or BSI, was created in 1998 with a commitment by the Border Patrol to help migrants in need and the promised cooperation of the Mexican government. But the situation worsened in 2006 with the start of the Mexican War on Drugs launched by President Felipe Calderón. In 2006, President George W. Bush launched Operation Jumpstart. It involved the deployment of 6,000 National Guard troops to assist Border Patrol agents in surveillance, intelligence gathering, and other support roles. Then the Obama administration continued to maintain and repair existing barriers, but it did not significantly expand the construction of new fencing. April 2018, President Donald Trump launches Operation Faithful Patriot, which was primarily focused on addressing immediate security concerns related to the approaching migrant caravans. The plan was for more direct military involvement of National Guard units to assist the Border Patrol in order to secure the territorial integrity of the United States.
I see. No. I see. Sounds a lot like the old direction.
Here you can see US soldiers laying defensive wire along the banks of the Rio Grande River near Hidalgo, Texas. In January 2019, the deployment was expanded to roughly 6,000 troops. And by the end of Trump's term, approximately 700 kilometers of new and replacement barriers had been completed. However, since I'm doing this video now, none of these operations definitely solved the problem. Even worse! In the meantime, Mexican cartels grew stronger and richer. Like I showed you in my past videos, some of their units now benefit from military-grade weapons and training. Because of that, the Mexican government lost control over huge parts of the country. Here, according to Politico, in 9 of 32 regions, Mexico's government has ceded control over governing institutions and land. And that's one of the most optimistic reports. Now cartels are fighting over control of sections of the US-Mexico border, so that migrants need to pay them in order to get across. The current rate is $10,000 per adult or $15,000 for family. Let me be clear, these guys are making bank with this crisis. In other words, they don't want it to stop. Cartels have quickly figured out that facilitating the flow of migrants to the US border can be remarkably lucrative. Between fiscal year 2020 and 2021, the number of migrants being apprehended by US Border Patrol agents had risen to 278% along the US-Mexico border. During fiscal year 2023 alone, over 1,400,000 encounters were reported by the Border Patrol, with most migrants passing through El Paso, Del Rio, or Tucson. Reminder, these are figures from the USBP, which focus on apprehensions on unauthorized border crossings. On the 6th of March 2021, Texas Governor Greg Abbott launched Operation Lone Star. The main part of the plan was the construction of a border wall, all the while guarding different parts of the 1,200-mile Texas-Mexico border with state troopers and National Guard members. By the way, I noticed something interesting. Many Texas National Guard members are Latinos, maybe of Mexican descent. I wonder how they feel about this entire situation. With that being said, is it me or I feel late Roman Empire vibes? Vamos! 1 year after the start of Operation Lone Star, the states of Arizona, California, and New Mexico saw a 62% increase in migrant encounters. By November 2022, 6,000 troops of the Texas National Guard were deployed to the border. Now they need Bradleys, Abrams, and even FPV drones, why not? The National Guard's engineering units also installed one roll of razor wire after another. They also lined the river at Shelby Park with shipping containers. Meanwhile, the disputed territory of Fronten Island became a hotspot of human trafficking and drug smuggling for local cartels. In 2016, gunmen from Mexico fired from the island towards US territory and wounded one Border Patrol agent. In 2019, in the same sector, a Border Patrol boat came under automatic weapons fire and got riddled with 50 bullets. Throughout 2023, more and more stashes of guns and ammunition were routinely found along the Rio Grande. In late September, Governor Greg Abbott gave the green light to clear Fronten Island as part of a larger campaign to reassert Texan authority on the islands of the Rio Grande. In October 2023, the Special Operations Group of the Texas Ranger Division, supported by Texas Army National Guard, gathered near Fronten Island. They meticulously prepared the storming of the island, as they expected sniper fire, IEDs, and overall heavy resistance from enemy gunmen. Now, since the island laid in disputed territory, Texan authorities had no other choice but to warn Mexican federal police of the operation. Can you guess what happened next? Surprise, surprise, when the Texas Rangers launched the assault, the island was empty. Right after securing the island, engineers began clearing its vegetation to make sure cartels don't come back on Fronten Island. It was a small but much needed victory for the state of Texas. With that being said, from an operational perspective, smugglers will try to find new gaps along the 2,000-kilometer Rio Grande bordering Texas. There's so many islands they could use, and many of them are legally on Mexican territory, meaning the Texas Rangers can't do anything. On the 11th of January 2024, Greg Abbott executed an emergency declaration ordering Texas military forces from the National Guard to seize control of the 47-acre Shelby Park in Eagle Pass from federal Border Patrol agents. This was a clear confrontation with the White House, since after taking hold of Shelby Park, the Texas National Guard prevented Border Patrol agents from entering. I don't know the full story, but I will just show you these two articles that might give you a couple hints on the motivations of Greg Abbott. A border agent was just charged with taking bribes from cartels. Former Border Patrol agents sentenced on bribery charges. As cartel power rises, so do concerns about customs and border protection, corruption. Texas then reinforced Shelby Park with razor wire and began transforming Eagle Pass into a full-on military base. In response, the Supreme Court ruled federal agents can remove razor wire installed along the border on Abbott's instruction. The internal situation was getting extremely tense. On the 16th of February, Texas Governor Greg Abbott doubled down. He announced the construction of FOB Eagle, a new 80-acre forward operating base at Eagle Pass that would be able to house up to 2,300 soldiers. During that time, Governor DeSantis said he will send up to 1,000 Florida National Guard troops to Texas in order to stop the invasion. Then Governor Holcomb announced that 50 Indiana National Guardsmen would arrive in Texas by mid-March. Same for 200 Missouri National Guard troops and 40 from Arkansas, all of them on a voluntary basis. And a couple days ago, a rotation of 50 soldiers from the Louisiana National Guard returned home. Plus all the other states that deployed troops already throughout 2023. People in the White House must have been shaking. Now, did the initiative by Governor Greg Abbott actually work? Well, let's look at the facts. Between October 2023 and May 2024, US Border Patrols registered 1,278,000 apprehensions at unauthorized crossing points on the US-Mexico border. What's interesting is that we even have data on what sectors received the most migrants. For example, 255,000 in San Diego, or 20% of the total. or Tucson with over 400,000, or roughly 32%, 1 in 3. Overall, it's still through Texas that most migrants come through. If you add in all the sectors within the jurisdiction of Texas, including the El Paso Border Patrol sector, we get 560,000 encounters, or 44% of the total. This goes to show the importance of Texas in the protection of the southwest land border. In reality, the efforts of Texas National Guard units, state troopers, and the Texas Rangers paid off. In fiscal year 2023, 856,000 encounters were reported in Texas, whereas it decreased to 560,000 in fiscal year 2024. That's a 35% drop. Additionally, in fiscal year 2023, 60% of the migrants were apprehended in Texas, whereas now it's only 44%. And it's not a surprise that now the migrants are shifting westwards, to the great pleasure of the Mexican cartels controlling these sections of the border. Nonetheless, on the 4th of June, The Hill reported Arizona to vote on Texas-inspired law allowing state police to arrest migrants. If you want to bring your fitness journey to the next level, click my TrainWell link down below to get 14 days for free with your own personal trainer.